through the family court situation. I'm a father who also went through the family court situation, and as I was navigating, found that there was a lot of different hurdles that were in place that I didn't really fully understand. So moving forward, starting Dad's Evoking Change, that's our primary focus, is to provide legal resources, free legal resources to fathers who are navigating the different family court situations and scenarios. Right now, we have a couple different free legal programs. I'll just touch on them real quick. We have free legal consultations that we offer virtually once a month and then once a week in person at the East Bay Agency for Children's Center in Oakland. We also have free co-parenting counseling and therapy for parents that maybe not yet gone into the system, or maybe they have, but we want to provide a space and free resources for families and co-parents to get on the same page. We believe that when two people that are walking down the parenting path can get on a better, on the same page, so to speak, it will alleviate a lot of stresses if they do end up navigating the family course, and the child, ultimately, the children will benefit from the two parents being on the same page. And so those are just a couple of the programs, to name a few. I don't want to take up too much time. I'll put the I will put our website in the chat for all those who are interested in getting a little bit more information about what's going on with Dad's Evoking Change. Please feel free to reach out to me and or hit up the website to check out what we got going on. With no further ado, I'd like to welcome a colleague of mine who started off actually on the inception of Dad's Evoking Change as a board member, has since transitioned into a more of a staff role within the organization. Nora Al-Yami. Nora Al-Yami is a family law attorney based here in Oakland, a good friend of mine, a pillar in her community, as she's been doing this work for a really long time. Nora today is going to go over the introduction to navigating family courts. It's something, again, Kevin mentioned it, I think we get about 20 to 30 phone calls and about 15 to 20 emails per day with a father who is just lost in the process of what to do next. Family court can be a very intimidating place for somebody who doesn't understand the rules and doesn't understand the game that they're about to enter. And so Nora has been instrumental in Dad's Evoking Change in helping us create these programs where we can offer free legal services to fathers. So a quick bio from Nora. Nora Al-Yami graduated from Santa Clara Law School and joined the California Bar in 2014. She attended the University of Miami, Florida for her undergraduate education. Ms. Al-Yami tailors work towards educating and empowering self-represented litigants in family court by providing unbundled legal services on a flat-free basis. Ms. Al-Yami practices family law and domestic violence exclusively and ranks as a super lawyer. The super lawyer is important, super lawyer in the top 2.5% of family law attorneys in the state of California. So with no further ado, I'd like to welcome a friend of mine, a colleague of mine, Nora Al-Yami. Nora.
Thank you, Kareem. Good evening, everybody. It's nice to be here with you all tonight. I do have a PowerPoint presentation because there's a lot of information that we're going to go through tonight. If you have questions while we're going through it, feel free to drop it in the chat. I know that Kareem is going to be collecting and watching for the questions. It should be, I'm trying to make it so we have time at the end to get all the questions answered. So if you feel like we're moving through things kind of quickly, just stick with me, try to jot your question down in the chat, and I'll be sure that we get back to you. I'm going to go ahead right now and share my screen. I'm gonna let you guys, Kareem, maybe you give me a thumbs up if you can see my screen. Cool. All right. Again, welcome everyone this evening. My name is Nora Al-Yami. I am the founding attorney of DIY Family Law. Tonight, we're going to be talking about the do's and don'ts. So kind of a big overview umbrella. We will be coming back. We're going to do a series so we can get into more detail on some of these more popular topics. But for tonight, we're just going to do a little bit of a crash course and an overview. So again, welcome. My name is Nora Al-Yami, and I am the founding attorney of DIY Family Law. What's important about that is my goal in my career is to work with parents who really want to be engaged and do things on their own, including the legal process. And I will just be the person to help guide and coach you in addition to help you draft stuff or review stuff before you submit it. But I really want people to be empowered and educated and hands-on with their cases. So I work on a flat fee, which means you don't have to pay me $10,000 in a retainer. We can pay as you go. So having said all that, my contact information is here on the slide. I'll be sure that it's also in the chat. I think my website is already in the chat in case you need to find me later. So let's go ahead and get an overview what our goals are today. So I'm hoping that everyone is going to gain useful and understandable information about California family courts. So it's not only useful, but I want you to be able to understand. Again, if we're going too fast or there's a question about something, drop it in the chat. Our topics today: general information about family courts, or courts in general in California. So not just family, we'll get a lay of the land. We're going to talk about the importance of legalese, which is what attorneys go to law school for, is that we learn the language of the law. We're going to talk a little bit about preparing for court and the etiquette you should be aware of once you get there. And then we're going to do a real quick crash course on child custody mediation. I'm assuming most of the dads here have family cases, or at least your family's here in Alameda County, whether or not you've had a case yet. But the crash course we'll be going over is specific to Alameda County, but most counties have like a similar process. So let's go ahead and just jump right in. I'm here with the dads. I have a fabulous brown dad who I had in my life, and it's made my life better. I'm a more enriched, healthy, well-rounded person because my dad was around, right? So it's important to me that every child has access to that same love and that same parenting. I always add right here, courts are behind in the times. So there may be opportunities, circumstances where you go into a courtroom setting and you feel like the mom is getting more attention, she's being heard, her requests are being granted. And I just put it right up front that there are a lot of older people who sit on the bench who have more traditional ideas about how a family should run and that the mom should be the primary parent. So I just try to warn everyone up front that it's likely at some point you will experience that, and just to tell you that it's not personal. And there are some of us on the inside really trying to make some systemic change happen to make it better. Also, I will say, even if you see a judge who looks like you, or you think looks like you, has a similar type of name as you, that does not mean they're going to be on your side. I have dads coming to me all the time saying, I had a black male judge and he didn't do anything I wanted. And what is this? So I tell people all the time, like, we'd like to think we can find allies and people who look like us or have names like us, grew up where we grew up, but we can't depend on that, right? So let's build our communities and depend on each other. Also, we'll get more into this in a different class or a different dad-scussion, but I really want dads to know the court can be your friend. It does not have to be something that you fear. It doesn't have to be something that you dread. There are ways that you can utilize the court system to make your life easier. So we will talk a little more later about things that you can do so you can have the benefit of what the court has to offer. Yeah, and I add in there, when she's happy, it's all good, but if she's not happy, it's all bad. So there are ways that you can utilize the court for your benefit. Lastly, and this goes for everybody, the court does not care about your feelings. And it can be really hard in family court to try to separate, excuse me one moment, having a dog.
And just to piggyback on what Nora said as she deals with her situation, you know, a lot of times when fathers call up to Dads Evoking Change, they're in the heat of the moment, right? They've just had a judge tell them they cannot be a part of their kid's life, or they can get visitations every couple of weeks. And naturally, that's going to make somebody, that's going to raise some blood pressure. That's going to raise your heart rate, right? That's going to get you feeling some type of way. And this is completely normal. We just realized that the court doesn't necessarily care about how you feel. You're not going to court to talk to the judge about how you feel. you're really there just to talk about the facts, and I'll let Nora continue, but I just wanted to piggyback on what she said. As the court doesn't care about your feelings, it sounds really harsh, but I think the point of that is that when you go into these courtroom situations, you have to be sure to kind of check your emotions and check some of those feelings at the door. There are other outlets. There are fathers groups. Fathers Court has a lot of different great organizations hold fathers groups. Take your feelings there. But when you get in front of that judge, you have to really stick to the facts. I'm sorry, Nora, go ahead.
No, you're great. No, I'm glad that you jumped in there. Thank you. Right, so I'm not your therapist. That's what I tell people. I'm a listening ear. I am an empath. I'm here to help you and advocate for you, but I didn't go to school to be a therapist. So let's connect you with people who really know how to navigate the feelings part of it. Okay, yeah, and you'll see at the bottom, I say, take your feelings to therapy. I take feelings to the gym. I'm a person of faith, so I take it to the worship house. So whatever it is you need to do to make sure you're taking care of that part of your experience, I'm in full support of it. Don't get me wrong, it's important. It's just, I'm not qualified to help you on that part. Okay. Let's talk about California courts in general. We have two systems. There's a criminal system and there's a civil system. The family law courts are part of the civil world. So we're not sending people to jail. And in general, there's no right to having a court-appointed attorney. So there's no right to having free legal assistance in family court. There have been grumblings in the legal world about how we can get people assistance, because losing your child can feel like you're going to jail. You're losing, a huge part of your existence. But as of right now, you cannot depend on the court to help you if you need an attorney. So yeah, civil cases are cases where generally private citizens or companies are suing each other for money. So yeah, it's not about going to jail. So there are many different types of cases that are considered civil. So for example, personal injury, landlord-tenant. Oh, my little thing is in the way, my image. Okay, and contracts. That is, those are all considered civil work. In addition to divorce, domestic violence, child support, custody, adoptions, all of those things are considered civil in nature. Important to know, if you have not yet been to a family court, there's no jury. So it's not all glamorized like you see on TV where, the jurors are coming in and the attorneys, I object, and the jury is just like, it's not like that. Everything you do in family court is just to the judge. And there's a history behind it, but I'll just say briefly that we can't trust each other to make decisions about our kids. So we just let the judge do it, because a jury of your peers when it comes to family, that just has not worked well. So you should also know that California family law should be universal statewide. And then it's divided by county. So your county will have its own family courthouse. And all of the laws that are employed within that courthouse should be the same throughout the state. And every single judge is supposed to follow the same rules, because we're in California and the laws are statewide. And as we also know, before I skip ahead, you may get a very different result appearing for a judge in Stanislaus County versus San Francisco or Alameda County. So even though it's supposed to be consistent, you should know that there's a lot of variation in how people's cases turn out.
And Nora,
Okay.
just to real quick, just to piggyback on what you said, I think the key word there is supposed to, right? This is what is supposed to happen. I know Nora touched on it, but I just want to emphasize the supposed to. Like, we know sometimes this doesn't happen. We know that not every judge is fair. We know many fathers that come out of these situations that feel the exact opposite. But Nora's just trying to explain that this is what is supposed to happen in the best case scenario.
Right. And if you have an issue that you really feel like went left, in another session, we can talk about what to do with that. So moving right along, in the interest of time, let's talk about what legalese is. Legalese is the language of the law. That's what attorneys go to law school for, so we can learn how to communicate with each other. And so for people who don't go to law school to learn the language of the law, that's what makes being in family court so complicated, because you don't understand what these forms are saying. You don't understand what the judge is saying. So I always encourage people to talk or to learn more about what the common terms are. And later in the presentation, I'll have a link to a YouTube video that gives you some of the common words that you should become familiar with. So lesson legalese. If you don't know what something is, you're in court or with a mediator, ask. It is completely okay to stop the proceedings and say, Judge, I don't understand what this word means. Can you explain that to me? And they will do that. Judges cannot give you legal advice, so they can't tell you what to say or whatever, but they can explain the concepts to you. So it's completely and entirely appropriate for you to stop and say, I don't understand what this is.
Nora, is there a way? I mean, I know you just said, say, I don't know what this is, but do you have to raise your hand? How exactly do you do that when you're in the courtroom?
Yes, very good question. The courtrooms are mostly virtual now, so we're going to use the word courtroom kind of loosely. Some counties, some departments have gone back in person, but a lot of places are still virtual. So yes, I highly recommend just trying to get the judge's attention, because you don't want to go too far down the road and then, the judge doesn't even remember what they said. So I do not suggest taking yourself off mute and interrupting the judge, but trying to get the judge's attention. And if, God forbid, they're not looking at their screen because they're, they have another screen or whatever, then you may want to interrupt and say, Your Honor, I'm so sorry to interrupt. Your Honor, I'm sorry to interrupt. And that's really kind of the only way to do it. When you're in court, it's a little easier, get somebody's attention, but yes, that would be my suggestion. Great questions.
Thank you for that.
And I see people talking in the chat, so I hope everyone's asking good questions in the chat.
Yeah, there are a lot of questions coming through. I just want to remind everybody we will get to them. I'm writing them all down so that you don't need to remember them necessarily. I'm going to write them all down next to your name, and then we'll try to address them at the end of the presentation.
Okay, yeah, so the rule about if you don't know what something is, you don't want to agree to it. You don't want to sign anything. You don't want to say to the court or even to the mediator, I agree, this is okay. Make sure you understand what you're agreeing to before you sign or even just verbally give your agreement. All right, moving along. Let's talk more about what do you do when you're in court, or how do you prepare even before you show up. Number one, you want to read what the court paper says. Even if you feel like a deer in headlights, at least look at it. See what boxes are checked on the forms. Is there a box checked for custody? Is there a box checked for property? Is there a box checked for restraining orders? Just look through it, try to get a lay of the land to see what is happening in court right now. What are the major takeaways from this? You also may want to consider, once you figure out the main issues, for example, community property or custody or a visitation schedule, just Google California child custody, rules. Also, if you can go to your local public, there's law libraries that are specifically lawyer law libraries, and they have research librarians, so they can point you in the right direction too. And I know this probably sounds like a lot, but I want you to just think about what's at stake, right? Whether or not you're getting to spend birthdays with your kid might be at stake, so that it's high. It's important to make the time to figure out what's happening. So yes, I referenced you can go to the public law library, or most counties have a self-help center or facilitators, family law facilitators office, and they should also be able to share information. Again, not able to give you legal advice or tell you what to say, what to ask the court for, but they can explain the concepts to you so then you can do your best having an understanding what's going on. Okay, so yeah, and shameless plug, talk to a lawyer if you can. Kareem already mentioned that we have weekly in-person drop-in lawyer consultations. Right now, I'm the person on the ground. So if you pull up on a Tuesday afternoon, I'm the person you're going to talk to. And then there are lawyers that will do one-off consultations where you just pay a flat fee. I also do those. So always good if you can find somebody, you can find the money and the time to talk to a lawyer. And I say this because not knowing the law is not an excuse for not following the law. So perfect example, you get pulled over for speeding on the freeway and you say, officer, I thought the speed limit was 65. Officer gonna say, I don't care what you thought, the speed limit here is 45 and you're getting a ticket. So ignorance of the law is not an excuse. That's the saying. Ignorance of the law is not an excuse. So the more you can do to prepare yourself, learn the concepts, understand what's going on procedurally, you're just going to keep yourself in the judge's good graces. And then also you will feel more empowered to participate, which is what we want, right? Yeah, so DEC provides free legal consultations, and there's our flyer. Yeah, so right now we are meeting at the East Bay Agency for Children down on Grand Avenue by the lake, by theater, the Grand Lake Theater. You can drop in between 3 and 5. We ask people to be there by 4, just so we have an idea how many people need to be seen. But yes, a little, again, plug, when do you really need to hire a lawyer? And I talked with both Kevin and Kareem about this last week. When it's a high conflict case, and when I say high conflict, it can mean emotional, it can mean financial. But if there's so much intense conflict between the parents and you're not able really to see straight in terms of what needs to happen and to be able to execute it and be efficient about it, that's when you really need to think about hiring a lawyer, when you're not able to manage it for yourself anymore. And then there are lawyers that do different kinds of work, right? So this is just a brief side note, but also super important for litigants to know. You don't have to pay for a full scope attorney. Traditionally, a full scope attorney is someone that you give a large retainer up front, $5,000, $10,000, and they take care of every single piece of your case for you. And they just reach out to you when they have questions, but they just take the entire burden off your plate and they do everything. But again, that's very expensive. So we have other options, including limited scope representation with a lawyer. That's what I do, which means you can contact me when you need help for individual pieces of your case. So let's say you have a hearing you need to get prepared for, and it's about something important, like you're wanting to take your child on a trip for a week that doesn't normally fall into your visitation time. How do I go about making sure this trip happens because, you know, it's my auntie's 50th birthday or whatever. There may just be specific things that you need help with that it's worth talking to an attorney and potentially hiring them just for that specific piece. That's why it's called limited scope. They're only doing a limited piece of it for you. And then the last type of lawyer representation is you don't have any representation. You are self-represented. So self-represented litigants are also known as pro per. You may hear the word pro per, and that just means on your own. You are pro per, you are self-represented. Those words are interchangeable. Also, this is part of the legalese education vocabulary discussion to know the difference. So keep in mind that there are, you know, alternatives to the traditional $10,000 retainer that family law attorneys want. Yeah, and so then costs. Oh, please, Kareem.
I'm sorry about that. And then also just to be clear, so all of the services at Dad's Evoke and Change are free. So if you come to our free lawyer consultations on a Tuesday between 3 and 5 p.m., right there on Grand Street in Oakland, across the street from the Grand Lake Theater, that's a free of charge. There's no charges associated with any services that Dad's Evoke and Change provides. So you have an option to drop in. You also have a virtual option that's held once a month, and we'll be giving some more information out, and I'll probably put the flyer into the chat for that. So there's a couple different ways that you can access free resources, because a lot of the fathers that we're dealing with and you guys might deal with, or you guys might be, are pro per, are trying to do it all on their own. That's the regular way, because again, like Nora mentioned, a lawyer could be upwards of $10,000 depending on what your case and what your situation is. So you do have options. There are options out there for free services, and we'll make sure that to get all those to you guys through the chat today.
Yes, I do have another shameless plug for the Clubhouse virtual consultation. So we will get to that shortly. Okay, so yes, I just put costs there on the bottom because yeah, you should know there's a whole range. When you go for that full scope, that's going to be the big price tag. The limited scope and the unbundled services are like the medium price tag. And then if you're self-represented, you're going to want to find the free legal resources or just like the one-off consultations. All right. Courtroom preparation lesson. There are things that you can do before you go to court to get yourself prepared and ready. You want to take the time to review and to research and organize your main points. So again, if you know your court hearing, you're going to be talking about multiple different things. You're going to talk about child support. You're going to talk about custody. You're going to talk about holiday schedules. You're going to want to get your notes organized so you can tell the court, all right, now we're talking about holiday schedules, Judge. This is what I would like to see. Okay, now we're talking about child support, Judge. You should know I have a change in income and I submitted this form to let you know. So we may need to adjust what the child support numbers are based on that. So again, as much you can do preparation in advance, it's going to make your experience with the court go smoother. I don't want to say smoothly, but smoother. If you can, or go one at a time. Children are in the court's jurisdiction for 18 years. So once they enter the court's jurisdiction, they are with the court for 18 years. So if your child is 2, and right now you do not have as much visitation as you want, hold faith, because you still have another 16 years that you could potentially be negotiating with the court, negotiating with the other party, God forbid having whole trials if you need to, but just know that this is a marathon and not a sprint. And most of the time, as your kids age, you know, through the system, the court already automatically wants different things. The younger your child is, the court wants more contact regularly with each parent. The kids get older, they have developed relationships and bonds with each parent. It's okay if they go for a week or 2 without seeing the other parent, because they're 14. They know who their parents are. They're not 14 months to be like, who's this person? So yes, marathon, not a sprint. If you can, always talk to an attorney before you go to court, even if it's just to make sure that you know what you're going to say, have your thoughts organized, come see me in the clinic. That's what we're here for. And always have blank paper and a pen ready. Again, things may go really quickly and you're going to want to try to get the judge's attention, but sometimes you may just have to jot down your note or jot down your question and circle back to it later. All right, moving right along. Courtroom etiquette. And I keep moving around because the sun keeps hitting me in the face. So if you see me doing like this, it's just because the window right there. Anyways, courtroom etiquette, things to think about, right? If your court is virtual, if you know that your county is still doing everything virtual, these hearings are open to the public. So you can go in and just listen to see how the judge talks to the litigants, to see how the system, how the flow, the process, you know, most judges will come in and the first thing they want to do is call roll to see who's shown up for their hearing or not, to see, they're hoping people aren't showing up so they can get some work off their calendar. But, you know, the more you can go and just be familiar with how it works, the less anxiety you will feel when you're possibly in that situation at some point. So take the time to go visit your court, your family court in your county. More preparation. Make sure you have copies of the paperwork that's going to be discussed. So if you're the person filing the motion, have a copy of the motion so you know exactly, you remember exactly what it is you asked for. If the other side filed the motion, you're going to want that right in front of you too, because a lot of times these hearings can be very technical and the judge will say, you know, your second request on page number 3, item number 5. And if you're not following along to page 3, you know, item number 5, you're going to have no idea what we're talking about. So it's always best to be over prepared, have copies of the paperwork right with you when you're talking to the court. Yeah, so here goes. All the papers you have filed, all the papers the other side has filed and hopefully served you. Anytime a litigant files paperwork with the court, it is their responsibility to make sure the other party is served. The same goes for you. When you file something with the court, it is your responsibility to make sure that the other parent gets served with the exact same document. And
And just so you guys,
so,
and Nora, real quick, and just so everybody knows, we will be doing more Dad-scussions, more workshops with the first 5 to go specifically over these items. Today, we're going to kind of skim through some stuff, and you might be like, well, wait, have some specific questions. You can also reach out to us in the meantime, but just know that we will come back and do specific courtroom etiquette per se workshops. So we'll go in depth over, you know, every step from A to Z on what you need to do, how you need to prepare, and etc. So for anybody thinking like, wait, we're moving too fast, just know we will come back and be flushing all of these concepts out at a later Dad-scussions. Sorry.
That's right, Kareem. Some of those specific topics where they're going to go a little deeper. One of them is like navigating family court when the relationship has fallen apart. So when mom and dad are really, really at odds and can't get along, can't have a conversation, what's the best way to navigate family court when that's the situation? What's the best way to navigate family court? Another example is navigating family court when domestic violence is involved, whether you have perpetrated domestic violence, whether you've been accused and really haven't perpetrated domestic violence. We're going to have a workshop specifically on navigating family court when domestic violence is involved. So those are just some examples of excuse me, topics that we're going to go deeper with, and Nora obviously will go deeper, not me. I'm just going to be listening and take as much notes as possible. Thanks, Kareem, for that.
and I want to say, Kevin, you got to also say dads experience domestic violence as well.
That's a good point. Yes, very true.
I have represented dads who have been hit by their spouses too.
Very
So
true. Yes, that definitely happens for sure. Thank you.
So, and that's something that a lot of times flies under the radar and we're embarrassed to talk about, but I'm not embarrassed to talk about none of it. So we can talk about all the things. So
Great point. Thank you for that.
So just the last note on the courtroom etiquette in terms of the before you show up preparation. If you have exhibits, like if you have pictures, you're going to be talking about vacation and you want to show the judge stuff, make sure you just have it right next to you, ready to go, if you haven't already submitted copies to the court in a filing. Okay, so some of you may know this, you haven't been to court, you may have no idea, but you basically want to go to court to act like you're having a job interview, right? So you're going to act professionally. So that means not speaking over other people, not interrupting. You're going to dress neatly. You know, I mean, in the pandemic, there was a lot of excitement happening. And so the judges have gotten more serious. Yeah, Orlando, like, I see you, I know. I mean, there were times I'd be in court, people be in there, you know, on the couch in their underwear. And it's just like, no, this is not how we're going to do this. This is not how we're doing this. So again, act like you're going to a job interview. Speak when it's your turn. Don't speak out of turn. Judges really don't like that. And the last one, which can be challenging, is not to make personal attacks on the other side, even when they're making attacks against you. And it's so hard not to respond in the moment when the other person is just off the wall making accusations and saying things that aren't true. But it really doesn't help for you to match their energy. And the courts will notice if you rise above it and don't engage. They will see it. All right, we got a lot to do, but our takeaways. We are showing respect. Remember that the people in the court, whether it's the judge or the mediator or the clerk, they are part of this bigger system that has a lot of power. And what you don't want to do is have like a personal issue with one of these players in the system and have it impact your case in a negative way. So let's say you're disrespectful to the courtroom clerk, and I'm going to say disrespectful very loosely. I'm not going to, say what's what, but the clerk is like the judge's right-hand person. So when you show up in court, the clerk is going to look at the judge like, this is that guy who sent me that nasty email. And the judge doesn't like that either. So whoever it is, we're showing respect for them and the other people in the courtroom. So if you're in court and other people are having their turn talking to the judge, you're going to keep yourself on mute. You're probably going to mute your screen, so it's just, you know, your name. We're showing everyone respect while they have their time with the judge. Kevin, I saw you. Come on, you have a question or a comment?
Yeah, so you just pointed something out with the scenario is even when you're communicating, not even necessarily in court, but your communication with the court, it's important to not lose your patience because, okay, I didn't even think about that. I appreciate you pointing that out.
Yeah, this is going to be an information download today. So just remember, we will be coming back and going over these concepts, you know, and some in more detail. But yeah, you know, we learn in law school, you should never say anything, send an email, make a post that you wouldn't want the judge to see. Just don't do it. Just don't do it. Even if you're on your own private social media, don't do it. You can never erase anything online these days. Let one person take that one screenshot and let it show up in front of the judge where you're saying, F this judge. They just took my weekends away. Don't do it. Don't do it. That's when you go to therapy, you go to church, you go to the gym, whatever it is, you take it there. Never interrupt the judge. You see, that one is just standing by itself. Don't interrupt the judge. Again, that's that interpersonal relationship. If that judge feels like you don't respect them, their ego is going to probably puff up a little bit, and they're going to make orders just to show you that they are in charge. Just because that robe goes on doesn't mean they're not human. They're supposed to be unbiased and fair, but they're still human. So just keep that in mind. Answer only the specific question the judge is asking you. I know sometimes you want to give a backstory or an explanation, but really try to focus on the one question that's before you at the time. And then finally, you want to speak clearly and loudly, because most counties, including Alameda, have a court reporter. The official name for them is stenographer. And those are the people who are taking notes. They're shorthand, but they are trying to capture every single word that every single person is saying when the court is in session. And it is a big job. Can you imagine? That's nuts. I'd be like, let me like voice record this and go back and type it, because there ain't no way I'm keeping track of every single person who's talking right now. So speak clearly and loudly and don't speak over each other.
Nora, we got a question in the chat about the interruption. They said even if you don't understand something, it's not okay to interrupt.
Again, my suggestion is try to get the judge's attention so you're not verbally interrupting.
Okay.
You don't want to try not to talk over the judge. But if you're going like this and they're not seeing it, because a lot of times, you know, judges have several screens with different, you know, they have your case file open on a screen. Try to get their attention visually first. And then if you have to say, you know, Your Honor, I'm so sorry to interrupt. I'm so sorry to interrupt. And then let them wait until they say, okay, what's your question? Don't say, I'm sorry to interrupt. I'm sorry to interrupt. I need to know such and such. Say, I'm sorry to interrupt. I'm sorry. And then let them say, okay, what's your question or what's the issue? All right, we're jumping right in. I have, what, about 30 minutes? We're going to learn about mediation. Mediation is very important. And I say that up front just because if you have a family court case anywhere in California, at some point you're going to talk to a mediator. And mediators are court staff. So they do not belong to one parent or the other. They are also supposed to be a neutral third party who listens to both parents and then comes up with a report or a recommendation to the judge. So this is another one of those people that you have to be very careful about your behavior and how you speak to them. And if you have email communication, how you're talking to them, because this is another person, even though they're not the judge, they have a lot of power. They have a lot. If they like you, you're going to get what you want, because they're going to tell the judge, this dad is really on top of it. And he was prepared and he had his documents ready and he had a proposal that made sense. I think dad should have it his way. That would be golden. So just keep that in mind. This is another person that you want to make your friend if possible. Kareem, I see you.
Yeah, so Orlando, thanks for the questions. He just mentioned, so the mediator is the plug. I think you can touch on that.
Yeah,
Essentially, yeah. That I would just put it like this. Again, the mediator is someone you might see before the judge, right? So if you can create a good rapport with the mediator, that for sure is going to translate to the judge's desk. They're going to know about that, those interactions, especially, and if it goes the other way, if it goes bad, they're going to know about that interaction. And
yes.
you don't want to give preconceived notions of who you are and who you aren't before you even get in there and get a chance to tell your story. I think that's the point. So yes, the mediator is somewhat of the plug.
So then you should dress for an interview for the mediator as well then.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
Okay.
even just putting on a collared shirt.
Okay,
Yeah. So
Okay.
I'd say no hats, no hoodies, no jerseys, like
okay,
throwback, like you going to the club.
yeah, yeah, okay.
No oversized white t-shirts. Yeah. But this, I tell people this is chess, not checkers. So remember who you're talking to, and everyone who works for the court can be your friend. So don't come into it thinking this is the person trying to take my time away. This is the person trying to make me pay more child support. Give them the benefit of the doubt, just like you hope they will give you the benefit of the doubt.
And when they don't, be prepared to remain calm as well, because that happens too. We talk to dads all the time who experience, the bias from the mediator as well. So again, you got to do your best to, remain professional, because they hold the cards, they hold the keys, so, easy to say, hard to do. I know.
Exactly.
I know.
Yeah.
But
Exactly.
we talk about role playing with somebody, going through this
Practicing.
process,
Yep.
exercising when someone gets smart, what your response is going to be. When someone gets sarcastic, what your response is going to be, because it happens. We know that it happens. We know that they push your buttons a lot of times intentionally, or at least it feels intentional.
Right.
You got to be prepared, again, to, like Nora said, to play chess, not checkers, because the most important thing is you having access to your kid, and that person holds the cards. So anyway.
Yes, so important. So important. So yeah, same with the clerk, the person, who's trying to keep track of the courtroom. Yeah, everyone gets respect, because when they like you, it's a better chance you're going to get your way. Okay.
And even piggybacking on that, once you walk into the courtroom, you don't know who is who. So, I mean, it can start even before you get into the actual courtroom.
In the elevator.
You could walk through the elevator, you could walk through the little security that they have at every court, and you going through security, and you're talking to the security guard rudely, and the person behind you is trying to get back. He's the court clerk, or he's the bailiff, or he's someone that works in. Like, you really don't know. You don't know who is who. And I know this sounds like, oh, well, that's easier said than done. Once again, we're making no mistake. We know that these things don't always go in a positive way. We understand that, but what we're trying to do today is arm you with enough information and resources so that you can circumvent some of those things. Because if you already know it's there and you still fall into that trap, then that's a different scenario if you just didn't know that there was a trap at all. So while we're saying this, please believe that we know and understand, because we're working with fathers every day who are going through some pretty shady situations when it comes to the court. But we're just trying to arm you with as much resources today. So I just want to throw that in there as well.
And I'm gonna tell a quick story just because it's relevant. This has actually happened. I was representing a mom who had a domestic violence restraining order. It was pretty serious domestic violence. It included physical harm on the child. So there's a structured parking lot at the Hayward Hall of Justice across the street. If any of you have been to Hayward Hall of Justice, there's the multi-layer parking lot over there. And the dad, who had a restraining order against him, tried to run the mom over in the court parking lot before court. And I'm not even kidding. I'm not even kidding. Like, how not smart is this? And guess who be in the parking lot too? Security and the bailiffs. That dude was done. That dude was done because he already had the restraining order. And then he literally tried to swerve at her in the parking lot. Not smart. So even before the elevator, even before security, you enter the parking lot and know that there are eyes everywhere on you. So best behavior. All right, we got to move on. So what is, let's say you have not yet been to child custody and mediation. What is it? So the overview is the judge does not have enough time to talk to everybody. So they send the parents to this mediation process. And the goal is for the parents to make agreements. And so the judge can just come back and say, okay, that's the order. We don't have to waste time on a trial. You know, I don't have to go through all this evidence. If y'all can agree, this is the best thing for the family, okay? So as you can see, what my pretty slide, child custody mediation gives parents a chance to resolve disagreements about a parenting plan for their children. Mediation may address legal custody, parenting plans, holiday and vacation schedules, transportation, that includes the exchange locations, and other areas that relate to the needs of the children. So, you know, what sports is the kid going to be enrolled in, or are they going to play an instrument, or all of those sorts of things revolving the kids get talked about in mediation. So how do you get ready for this? What happens when you get into mediation? So again, shameless plug, talk to a lawyer before you go to mediation, just so you understand what's going on and you have a plan. And that's something, again, you can come to the DEC clinics, the free lawyers clinics, and come and get help with this. So this is one that I put in because of a very specific dad that I was helping. You want, before you even end up in the court system, to make sure that your name is on your kid's paperwork, whether it's at school, whether it's at the doctor's office, whether it's on your forms with your employer, everywhere that you can make sure there's a connection between you and your child, particularly if you're not married to the other parent, you need to do that. I had a heartbreaking case, which is still ongoing, and I'm not going to say it to scare you, but this is a real thing. I was representing a dad who was an immigrant, didn't speak much English, also undocumented. So he was concerned. He didn't want to put his name on his kid's paperwork because, you know, he was scared of deportation issues, which is totally normal. And you should know 99% of the time, family courts have nothing to do with immigration. So, you know, if you're undocumented, that's not something I want you to worry about in family court. But what happened with this one dad, because he didn't put his name anywhere, the mom, they weren't married, she was getting a lot of help from a roommate. The mom also was an immigrant, didn't speak English well, and her roommate did. And so the roommate ended up being the person that was on the kid's documents at school and with the doctor. And the roommate ended up filing for custody because she had been helping the mom so much that she said, I think I should be able to make legal decisions for the child, or I want to be able to travel internationally with the child because I have been such a tremendous help. I've been around more than the dad has been around. I have done more than the dad has done. And the court agreed. Even though the dad was there when the child was born, even though the mom, the biological mom and dad, they got along. And the mom actually went to court and said, I don't think this is right. I think if anyone should have second custody, it should be the dad. And even with the mom saying that and agreeing with it and putting it in writing, the judge still gave this roommate joint custody, joint. So the mom shares custody with the roommate and the dad has nothing. He has nothing. He doesn't have visits. He doesn't have any input on what's happening with his kid. And this is here in Alameda County. And this was with a Black judge who's a man and a dad himself. Yeah.
So you can't make this stuff up. Like I wouldn't even have been able to make that story up. But the reason Nora is bringing this up is because we know that there are a lot of programs that are income based. And so when you're a couple, a lot of times, and I know this because I did this when I was a young parent, left my name off of the child care so that we get the reduced child care rate. Left my
That's
name
real.
off of the doctors so that we can get the Medi-Cal or whatever. Because, you know, I wasn't making enough money to pay for everything, but I was making something to where it would have impacted our eligibility. So it's very important that you take that into consideration, because all is fine when the relationship is cool. Going back to Nora's first slide, when everything's happy, when she's happy, is happy. But when it's not, and your name isn't on there, it's going to be hard to prove that you were taking them to school and dropping them off and picking them up every day. It's going to be hard to prove that you were contributing to the child, to paying for childcare and contributing to groceries, because you're not on the lease.
There's no paper trail. There's no paper
because you
trail.
don't qualify for Section 8 if you put your name on the lease. You know, I mean, if you put your income on the lease. So there are a lot of legitimate reasons why, that we understand why people do it. It just feels, you know, it's tough. So we just want to make sure you are armed with, like Kareem said, armed with the necessary information so you make an informed decision. You know what I mean? So at least if you do decide to go that route, you at least know what the risks are.
Exactly.
And you're not surprised when something doesn't work out, you know, the way that we'd like it to work out.
Absolutely, Kev. And then real quick, we had a General Parker in the chat just said, how does someone not even biologically tied to the child have more rights than the father? And you want me to believe that the courts are fair for men. And I'll just touch on that quickly. Yeah, that case, I can't speak on the case because I don't know anything about it. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a professional. But
you've been hearing me complain about it for quite some time, though.
I have heard about this case for the last couple of months, and it's hard. It's heartbreaking. You know what I mean? It shouldn't make people feel hopeless. I don't want people to take it like, oh, there's no hope for me. That's not the case. Again, like we started off, there's supposed to be some uniformity between all of the judges and the types of decisions they make, but we know the reality is that there's not going to be uniformity within every judge in different counties and people with different upbringings and social constructs and all of that, right? So we're not even saying that the courts are fair for men, General Parker. That's not what we're trying to, the conversation today is not to make everyone believe that, oh, this is a fair process. No, quite the contrary. Quite the contrary. We want to agree in some situations we know isn't fair in family courts, right? Again, like Kevin just mentioned, we want to arm you guys with the most information so that you can navigate and hopefully circumvent some of those traps that we already know are there or could not be there, right? So we're definitely, the hopes for today is not to say that the family courts are fair. Quite the contrary. We just want to arm everybody with enough information and resources so that they can make informative decisions as they're navigating through that. So I just wanted to touch on that. And then Nora, you can maybe speak to the first part of the question, which was, how does someone not even biologically tied to the child have more rights than the father?
Yes. So I want to make sure we get through the slides, but I want to answer that question.
Yes.
Yeah. No, because I want to answer that question. And General, good to see you, friend. What happened is in California, because we have so many same-sex relationships, the family court has created a really broad construct of what a parent is. So you don't have to be biologically related for the court to say you're a parent. And that's come through years of litigation, again, out of the LGBTQ community, because so many parents who weren't biological, but doing all the work, weren't getting custody or visitation. So it's wrong, right? But what ended up happening is, with this particular case, the roommate, who is a queer person, a woman, she's lesbian, she basically used the laws that were meant to protect lesbian couples. But they were never a couple. The biological mom was never intimate with this roommate. They were really just roommates. And so you should know that myself, along with the attorney that's helping the mom, are going to try to take it on appeal. So we're not taking this lying down. We've already had a trial, and we thought the judge did the wrong thing. So, you know, there's some of us out there, again, in the trenches, in the system, trying to make change. So I don't want you to feel hopeless, you know, and some of us care more than others. So it's really important to find the community of people, the attorneys, the resources, Dad's Evoking Change, First Five, to get connected to the people who genuinely care and who aren't going to just say, oh, trial's over, I guess you're screwed. We're not going to do you like that. So again, I think it was wrong, not just ethically and morally and, whatever, but legally, I think it was wrong. So we're going to keep fighting and try to make it right, particularly in this case, because the mom and the dad agree that they should be the parents on paper, even though dad wasn't before. It blows my mind too. It blows my mind too. All right. So that's where that one little, note came from about putting your name on everything, because it's crucial. You never know when you may need it. So also in your preparation for mediation, the mediator will have access to your court file. So if you're the person who's the respondent, who's responding to the case, you want to make sure that you file some paperwork, at least a response or a declaration, which is like a little mini essay, trying to put a little bit of background, your side of the story, your side of the relationship. So when the mediator comes to talk to you, it's not just a blank slate. They will have been able to read, that you wrote, I was there when the child was born. I've been taking the child to every single appointment. I'm the one who found the dentist for the child. I'm the one trying to be, soccer coach, soccer dad, whatever. You want to make sure your voice is being heard. So make sure before you talk to a mediator, you file something, whether it's the response or a declaration, just so you can get, your position up there before you show up. And again, preparation in advance will help you understand what your legal rights are. So when you go into the session, you'll know, oh, I can ask for this, or I shouldn't ask for this right now, or, is this not something I should expect to get, so I shouldn't ask for it at all? Try to get as much preparation in advance as you can. So even if you're representing yourself in court, you want to consider talking with a lawyer about the issues and what types of agreements you can make in mediation. So for example, super common schedule. One parent has the child for a week, and then the next week, the other parent has the child. The court is totally fine with that if that's something that you two agree to. So that is something that can be established in your mediation appointment. And then when you go back and talk to the judge, it's pretty much a done deal because you all agree that this is what's right for your case. So yeah, knowing what you can ask for, i.e. like a week on, week off, that's good to know, because otherwise you wouldn't think to ask for it if you didn't know that's an option, okay? So continuing along with this mediation process, you want to know the court overall, except in issues of child abuse and domestic violence and these sorts of things, the court is trying to make decisions that are in your child's best interest. And that's one of those legal terms that you're going to hear all the time, the best interest of the child. So whenever you're talking to either the mediator or a judge, you're going to want to make your delivery of your request or your position to be centered around what's in your child's best interest. So for example, you want the child Monday and Tuesday because soccer practice or the games or whatever is happening on Monday and Tuesday, and you want to make sure that you're the person involved with that. That's what you're going to want to explain to the mediator. You don't want to just go in and say, I want visits on Monday and Tuesday, and not explain, well, this is because I coach the kids' soccer team and I want to be there when they have the games, whatever the case may be. Continue to think about what's in your child's best interest when you're making requests of the court or stating your position. Again, when you make an agreement in mediation, as long as it's legal, the court will sign off on it. So keep that in mind. Also very important, mediation is free. Just like Dad's Evoking Change services are free, tonight's seminar is free. You do not have to pay for this mediator, which is huge because you basically can come up with your whole custody arrangement, whether it's joint, whether it's sole, whether it's 60-40 timeshare, whether it's 30-70, what day, who gets the holidays. You can really do most of the stuff relating to your kid with the mediator, minus child support. That's a different issue. But in terms of the custody and visitation stuff, the mediator can really get it done for you, and mostly for free. So take advantage of that. Kevin, I see you.
Can I quick question? So what happens when dad, he wants week on, week off, mom does not want week on, week off? What's the best way to show that it's in the best interest of the child as a dad walking in, making that request, and mom not wanting to grant that request?
So very good question. And a lot of it will depend on the age of your child. The court has an idea that when the child is younger, they should be seeing both parents more regularly. So if you have a 2-year-old, spending a whole week away from one parent is kind of a long time in terms of, and I'm not a developmental psychologist or nothing like that, but developmentally, kids need to have more frequent and continuous contact when they're young, because they're still in those formation, normative, building relationship stage. So if you should know, again, talking to a lawyer, asking for a week on and week off when a child is 2 is not going to go over as well as when a child is 12. So having some basic.
Is that true for dad also?
What do you mean?
Because it seems like when the kids are young, they try to give it to dad just on the weekends, or you know what I mean, like a small amount of time. It just seems like that doesn't stand true for fathers. Maybe it does for moms. It doesn't stand true for dads. Am I reading that wrong?
I mean, I can't speak on anyone's specific experience, but in terms of what the law says, and we talked about this earlier in terms of depending on who your judge is or what county you're in or what side of the bed they woke up on, you may or may not have a better chance of the judge really trying to stick to the law. But what the law says, so you all know, is you should have frequent and continuous contact. That is what the statute says. And again, absent child abuse or substance abuse or anything like that.
Right.
You want to have frequent and continuous contact. So that's the language you want to use to advocate for yourself when you feel like this really isn't going even close to fair.
Got you. Can you look like Orlando, I believe, had his hand up. You want to ask your question? Unmute yourself and ask your question.
Sure. Just a quick question. What if the other parent is exercising their right not to visit, and you are verbally making it clear that you want this person to visit? What if it's documented through text and the other parent is still refusing to visit? Or what if this parent is trying to make you seem violent or aggressive, but there have been no incident and no paper trail to support any of that? How do I state that I'm not keeping my child away from the other parent? How do I emphasize that to the judge? Because that's part of what's going on. I got mediation on September 28th. And
yeah,
I'm from Los Angeles.
And this is for everyone. Great question, Orlando. You want to document everything. So let's say you are the parent who's like the Monday through Friday school night parent. Every weekend, you are going to keep a log of when the visit was supposed to start, when it actually started, who was supposed to do the exchange, did they do the exchange? And then depending on your exchange location, I have people take screenshots or put it on a little TikTok. Like, so you have a time-stamped picture image of you being where you're supposed to be when you're supposed to be there. Mm. And then what happens is, if they're still not coming around, you can go to court and file and say, Judge, this person's not exercising their visitation, so why don't you just give me sole custody? That will usually make the other parent do something. Mm. And if it doesn't, maybe, that the parent is not equipped to currently be in that child's life. We never really know what's happening with people, but in the pandemic in particular, drugs and alcohol became a huge problem. People self-medicating. So I see you, Jorge, 1 minute. So just keep in mind, to extend a little grace when we can, but you can go to court and say, hey, judge, we have these orders and they're not being followed. So either the orders need to change or someone needs to start following them. But make sure you're documenting every single time there's supposed to be an exchange that you're where you're supposed to be doing what you're supposed to do. Jorge, I saw you had a question.
No, actually, I was just gonna make a comment in regards to that to Orlando, right? And if you do go that route, make sure always want to add in there, if you can, throw in no visitation rights, right, to the other parent, because also it could become a problem as far as her showing up and saying, I have rights, and calling the police and then getting them involved, and it's a whole hot mess, right? But you having that paperwork already court ordered, no visitation rights, it protects the children and yourself.
And just to piggyback as the lawyer, a lot of judges don't like to do that unless there's specific circumstances that include substance abuse, child abuse, and things like that. Most of the time, the court will at least leave you on for joint legal custody to say that you have some decision making. But yes, I think it's, and this is also what I tell litigants, ask for every single thing that you want. So if you want her to have no visitation, you ask for it, let the judge tell you no. Because closed mouth don't get fed, and you should know most of the time in family court, both parents are not going to be happy. The judge does a good job when neither parent is 100% happy. Because if one parent's 100% happy, then something's going wrong. So ask for the sun, the moon, and the stars, and just know you might not get it. Kevin, I see you off mute, and I'm worried we're not going to finish the slides, but if this is more important, then we do this.
It's not more important. It's just another comment about kind of in the chat about having a custody. I'm assuming Charlie has a custody agreement in place. Mom isn't abiding by it. He shows up to get his kid. She's not there. What do you do other than document it and then go back to court? Or is that what you do? That's what you do.
You follow the orders and you take it back to court.
Got you. Okay. And it's a long process, guys.
Yeah.
It sucks.
Again, chestnut checkers.
Yeah, it's a long process. Go ahead, Kareem.
Yeah, just to throw this out there, we do have a lot of really great questions in the chat. So I don't know. I know we have a few more slides, so I'm just hoping that we can balance and get to some of these other questions. But
I'm going on mute, staying on mute. I promise.
Okay, I'm going to summarize some things for mediation because I want to get to questions, and I know this was a lot of information. Again, summary of information, do as much as you can before you get to court. Figure out what you want your parenting plan to look like. Have a proposal, like literally the days and times where you want your child to be on, Saturday at 2 p.m. That should be in your proposal. So you can be very clear and specific about what it is you want. Again, knowing you're not going to get it, but as close as you can. They're trying to make everybody happy and there's just no way. Court is stressful for everyone, even myself as an attorney. There are times I have to literally squeeze my hands and so I don't cuss somebody out. Family stuff is hard and challenging for everybody. So I beg you, get into a support group, get into a dad's group, go to the gym, go to your place of worship, create those support systems where you can get that emotional part of, I'm so frustrated. I want to go to this for my kid and I can't, and I'm just torn apart right now. I need someone to talk to. You want to set yourself up with that level of support. Learning the terms, right? What's the difference between legal custody and physical custody? You're going to want to know some of the really commonly used terms. So again, you're not in there just overwhelmed by what's going on, but you can really follow the conversation and participate. You want to organize your thoughts before you get there, particularly if there's more than one issue on the court's calendar for the day. You don't want to be, flipping through papers and taking up time that's not needed. Get organized, take notes, get your little bullet points together, what you're going to say. Be polite and respectful to everyone. Again, these are the people who will bless you with time with your child. So there is no reason to get on their nerves or fuss at them because, and I think Kareem used the word rapport, building that relationship that you are, respectful and you talk when you're spoken to and you're not interrupting. All of those things go a long way. So lastly, another shameless plug. This is Kareem was talking about this earlier. Once a month, we go on Clubhouse and I'm just there answering questions. So it's not even like this where I talk your ear off. It's just literally you come on and you say, Nora, I have a hearing coming up. This is what's happening. What do I do? You know, or I'm having this issue with the mother of my child. How do I address this? What form do I use to file this request? Whatever it is. And we're on there for over an hour, once a week, or once a month, forgive me. So there are definitely ways to get in contact either with me or other legal resources who are here to support you. So yeah, if you didn't see that flyer, the next one we're having is 9/21. So we just had one this week. Was it this week or last week? My time runs together.
Last week.
Last week. So, but come check us out. Again, free legal information, super helpful. And you see, I put Dad's Evoking Change, the website here. So everything, not just the lawyer consultations, but the co-parenting classes, the support groups, you know, everything that we're doing is on the webpage. And then, as I said earlier, we have a commonly used legal terms, little video. It's just a couple of minutes, doesn't have everything, but if you're feeling overwhelmed with the terminology and the vocabulary, go check that video out. Because again, that knowledge is power, right? We want to educate and empower you so you can be fully participating in the system and what's happening with your child. Because yeah, closed mouth don't get fed. And I think, yep, there I am. So yeah, if you want to come talk to me, I do have my own practice, which, you know, you pay for me, you know, by the hour, come consult with me and talk to me. And sometimes it's worth it. If you have an hour's worth of question, it's going to be hard to get that from a nonprofit. So we do the best we can, but also know that there's kind of this middle ground of the limited scope and unbundled where you don't have to have a retainer, a lump sum ready to go. All right.
Thank you so much, Nora. That was really a lot of great information. Once again, just so everyone knows, we skipped over a lot of things today or touched on it, but didn't really get to delve too deep into it. But we will be back for more of these Dad-scussions to go a little bit more in depth into some of these concepts and topics that we talked about. All right, straight to you guys' questions, because there was a lot of good questions. Starting off with Kyle. He has a pandemic-related child support question. 2 children, 2 low-income divorced parents, and a dissolution agreement order stating each parent can claim 1 child per year for tax purposes unless otherwise agreed upon in writing. During the pandemic, there are new child tax credits awarding $3,000 per child plus other money in federal stimulus. Ex-spouse / co-parent claims both children despite the court order. IRS rejects the claim from Kyle since the co-parent claim.
Oh, because she did it first.
One receives $6,000 plus other stimulus money, while nothing for the other parent. The co-parent refuses to share or distribute any of the funds. Any thoughts on how to proceed?
Yes, you're going to file a request for order, which is the FL 300 form. If you have an order that says she's supposed to be claiming one and you're claiming the other, that's a violation of the court order. You need to go back to court and tell the judge. And if you have information, you know, how much those, you know, various credits and stipends and returns were worth, put all of that in your request. Say, Your Honor, here are the 2 kids. This is the money. She took all of it. I have nothing. Can you enforce these orders? I'm requesting that she have to reimburse me for my half. So, you know, and I think I mentioned earlier, judges really don't like it when their orders aren't followed. So if you go back to court, you show the order and say, this judge made this order that we're supposed to share it, and she out here doing what she want to do, judge get her.
Okay.
Thank you.
All
Really
right.
quick, Kareem. I know we're running out of time. Dara, can you please launch the poll so folks can complete the poll while Nora is responding to these questions? Go ahead.
Okay, thanks, Kevin. From Charlie, I was supposed to have my kids this weekend, but his mother would not give him to me. I have a text where I asked her, so when you're mad at me, you will not let me see or talk to my kid? She replies, yes. Then what? I called OPD, but since it's a non-emergency, they were not available until 10:13 p.m. and I called at 2:45 p.m. What can I do?
So anytime that someone's not following the court orders, you have 2 options. The first option is you file a request for order and you're just asking for enforcement. So there's a box on the front page of that FL 300, the request for order form, AKA, a motion. You're filing a motion, you're asking the court to do something. You're going to check that other box on the front, and you can write enforcement of orders. And then in the description, you say exactly that. And then you attach the text messages and you say, Your Honor, I have court orders that says I should have my child. She's not following them. And she's blatantly not following. Like, clearly she knows what the order is and she just don't care. And that's not okay. So that's really the number one thing I encourage, particularly if you are self-represented. That's going to be the most straightforward way, because there are two options. The second option is to file what's called a contempt. And contempt actions are specifically for when people violate court orders. The deal with contempt actions is they are very technical in nature. A lot of attorneys don't even like to do them. There's a formula of how you lay out what the order was, how and when they violated it, and then what you're asking for in terms of kind of like consequences, whether it's a fine or whether it's jail time. But those are super technical, and if you're going to try to do that, you're going to want to talk to a lawyer. But in terms of answering the question, those are the two ways of dealing with someone who's not complying with the court orders. You document all of it, you put it in the request for order, you say, this is what the problem is, this is my evidence what the problem is, and judge, this is what I'm asking to do as a response, whether it's, changing custody, or whether it's modifying the time for the visitation, whether it's modifying who's doing the exchange, pickup, or drop off, whatever it is you think is going to make the problem go away, that's what you're going to ask the court to do. And yes, General Parker, that is an order to show cause. They changed the name of it, but yes, an order to show cause is AKA a motion, AKA a request for order.
And then another question came through, can you also file a police report at the station to have proof?
Yeah, we have some parents that specifically do their exchanges at the police department. So they can literally walk in there and say, hey, can y'all make a note that I was here today at this day at this time and I waited for 20 minutes, or, I don't know if they write it up for you or what the process is, but absolutely. And some parents make it at the police station for that exact reason, because they need to make sure everyone's being compliant one way or the other.
Okay, cool. Thanks, Nora.
And I know in Oakland, at least, you can file an online report. So you can file an online report, a police report. They don't do nothing about it, but at least then you have to show it to the judge. And again, if you have Snap or any other way to take a picture of you at the exchange location and have it timestamped, that helps.
Again, document everything. A question from George. Is it fair to say that family court is built around and for mothers rather than fathers?
I'm sorry, can you say it again?
Yeah, is it fair to say that family court is built around and for mothers rather than for fathers?
I can't say built around, because mostly old white men wrote the law. So I don't think it was built around women. But I do think those old white men who wrote the law didn't want to have to caretake at the time. They were okay having a mom stay in the house and just be a mom all day. So one of my first slides was like, the system is old. The system is antiquated. The laws are old. And most of the time, the people on the judge's bench are the older people. And so they may still hold some of those traditional values of mom should be the primary. Is that what the law says? No. Is that what the court should do? No. Is that what the court was designed or built or meant to do? No.
Okay.
All right, folks, we're gonna have to wrap up just in consideration of time. We launched the poll one more time, so if you haven't completed the poll, please take a few seconds to complete the poll. I want to thank.
Go ahead. I just want to say, I haven't had a chance to look at all the questions in the chat, but if there are any particular themes of things that are coming up, I know we've considered doing a one on how to get enforcement of orders, and we could actually walk through how to do that paperwork. If there are themes that everyone's kind of navigating one way or another, make sure you let Kareem or Kevin know, So then we can have the more focused, tailored discussions, really like what y'all need and you know, the specific things that you're seeking advice on. Because that's what we're here for. We're trying to do this for y'all. So you let us know what you need.
Yeah, we're gonna save the chat because there are definitely some themes that surfaced, a lot around the custody orders, some questions around co-parents having violent partners and around making sure their child is safe, and how do we make sure, checking on those types of things. And a lot of the dads we talk about, that we speak with, are going through these same issues. So we will definitely come back with a series around navigating navigating family court. And so we can dig deeper into some of these specific topics. Really quick, I just want to thank Kareem and Nora for the work that they are doing. Like I said, dads are really, really put through the ringer when it comes to figuring out their rights and what they can and can't do, and navigating the child court system. We all know what the history is. We all know, as men of color, how we get treated when we go into a courtroom, and even men who are not of color, how they are treated when they go through a courtroom. It's not the same as women, is what I'm talking about. So we will bring Dad's Evoking Change back. Please contact me so we can get you connected to a father's group. Dad's Evoking Change is offering groups. Also, we've got 8 grantees that are offering father-centered, father-specific parenting groups. And you can talk to other dads who are going through some of the same challenges that you may be going through. So that is very important. Please reach out. You shouldn't be going through this stuff by yourself. This stuff is stressful. It will take years off your life if you let it. And a lot of dads we talk to just feel exhausted and beat down by the system. And Nora went over a lot of the reasons why dads are having that experience. So I just want to let y'all know that we are here. We see you, we feel you. We're out here trying to advocate on behalf of you. And I'm just really impressed and appreciative of the work that Dad's Evoking Change is doing. I mean, the fact that they have drop-in free co-parenting counseling available. I mean, come on, man. That's very important. And Kareem, correct me if I'm wrong, that's whether you are together romantically or not, right?
Absolutely. If you're living in the same house, if you're not living in the same house, whatever the situation looks like, we want the 2 people to get on the same page and clear any drama, heal any trauma, right? A lot of this trauma is very real. It's real trauma, right? Real. But we want to get parents on the same page so they can be a team unit for the child. That's the most important.
Exactly. This work is not about putting dad against mom or any of that stuff. It's about supporting dad to be the parent that they are and want to be, and supporting dad with navigating the difficult and sometimes complicated relationships that we have with our co-parents. So thanks for spending time with us on this Thursday night. There were a lot of other places you could be, but you logged on and we're here with us. So I appreciate you. Again, I put my email in the chat. Email me so we can get you connected with a father's group so you can talk to other dads and not be going through this system by yourself.
Yeah, come see me in the clinic.
Yes, we're here.
You know me now. Come see me.
Exactly. You are not alone in the struggle. I know it feels, you feel alienated. I know you feel hurt. I know it's a soul crushing experience, but just know that there are resources out there for you.
Yep. And there are success stories. So to give you the opportunity to hear from other dads who've gone through and walked that road that you're walking right now and came out on the other side.
Yes, amen. Yes.
Yeah. So it's
it was a brother in the chat
stories.
that said, yeah.
Anyway, you guys have a good night. Thanks a lot, Nora and Kareem. Great to see all of you familiar faces, and good to see all you new folks too.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, guys.
Hey, this ain't no intro, this the entree. Hit that intro with Kanye. I sound like Andre, tryna turn my baby mama to my fiance. She like music, she from
Thank you, guys.
like Auntie Yonsei. And my daughter couldn't have a better mother if she ever find another. Lover. Man, I swear my life is perfect. I can merge it. If I die, I'll probably cry in my own service. It was a dream. You cannot mess with the beam. This is like this many rings. Y'all know what I mean. This for the kids of the king of all kings. This is the onlyest thing. This is the beat that played under the word. This is the sheep that ain't like what it hurt. This is officially first. This is the third. This is a Villain is all we got. So we might as well give it all we got. This is a
Did you want me to stay on to debrief? Or
Yeah, we
are
can
we
stay
gonna
on for a
debrief
quick
another time? Okay.
You know it was good when nobody wants to leave.
That is a good
Guys,
sign.
I appreciate you
I'm trying
guys.
to ask one more question.
Hey, but folks were jamming to the music too. That
Yeah, they
song
were.
kept
Yeah, they
playing
were.
rocking. Everybody was like, "Oh yeah, I like this." DJ Dara on the ones and twos.
Onto the serpent. That's a holistic discernment. That's a holistic discernment. Told me these goofies can't hurt me. I just might make it some Earl tea. I was baptized like real early. I might get straight in the swirly. Wish I could tell you it's ready. Tell you it's ready today. They don't give nothing away. You gotta fight for your
Orlando, you have a case in, is it Alameda County or somewhere else?
I'm from Los Angeles.
Okay.
I got referred from someone through Alameda County that I've known for a long time. So I'm a special ed assistant for Los Angeles Unified School District.
Bless you.
Yeah, Oakland ain't no different from Los Angeles. So bless y'all in that East Bay area. Straight up. My family's from the Bay Area. I'm a Central American. My family from San Francisco Mission District. The Bay is just like the Bay is just like LA. It's just a little different, but I really appreciate you guys tonight because my father didn't raise me, and I'm going through with his mother. She's not a bad woman, but where she's living ain't cool. And I'll be real because I think I could be real here. I can't lose my son, and I never been